I think there's two things here. First of all, there's been a lingering sense of discontent with the way he's worked, the lack of intensity in training, the lack of tactical direction, the lack of developing young players, which is a crucial thing for Bayern because they cannot compete and buy necessarily big stars all the time. They need some players coming through. He wasn't really prepared to do that. But more immediately, the sense that this team was really falling apart and that he got too many players up against him and really lost the trust and confidence of the dressing room. Uli Hoeneß, the president, talking tonight in an event in Germany, saying when you've got 5 prominent players against you as a coach, you don't last very long. So that might not be the reason, but it was the trigger to make a decision that I think they would have made at the end of the season anyway.
Who were those 5 players, Raf? You mentioned them. Who do you think they were?
Well, I think we can probably count Frank Ribéry as one of them. He didn't even say goodbye in a message to his coach today on social media. I think Mats Hummels was not happy that he's left on the bench for such a big game. Ian Robben didn't seem to be overly happy with his coaching. I think Lewandowski had issues with him. Thomas Müller, as we know, has been well reported, has issues with him. So. And Kingsley Coman was a player that Uli Hoeneß mentioned. So it might be more than 5. I don't think it's about the number. I don't think it's necessarily about players flexing their muscle or player power. It's more of a case of a coach losing the confidence and trust with the players below him, that they no longer believed, and I think the board is here with them, that he was the guy who was going to take them forward and deliver success.
Certainly an eyebrow-raising move in homage to Carlo Ancelotti by Bayern. We asked you via Twitter, were Bayern right to part ways? Was it the right move? And overwhelmingly, the answer is no. Close to 60% of you saying no, closer to 40% saying yes. Where do you stand on this, Steve?
To be honest, after listening to Raf, then they've got this absolutely spot on. You know, as soon as you get a sniff that the players have stopped listening to the coach, regardless of who it is, then you have to make a change because it's going to be reflected on the field. And I think that performance against PSG just reflected the fact that the players have stopped listening to Ancelotti. So I think it was the right thing to do.
So do I. And in all honesty, Bayern Munich's bar is set a lot higher than most other people's. Still within touch and distance of and some inept performances in the Bundesliga. It's still retrievable, but I'm not sure that they were going to retrieve it with Ancelotti in charge.
Raf, what now is the question everyone's asking for the Bavarian Giants. Willy Sagnol, of course, is taking over on an interim basis. Do you imagine that's going to be for the rest of this season?
No, the plan from Bayern is to put somebody in by the end of the next international break, so within the next 2 weeks or so. And that's an interesting statement because, of course, the two managers that are linked with Bayern, one of them is available in Thomas Tuchel, he's out of the job. The other one, Julian Nagelsmann at Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim is saying, we're not letting him go. He is saying, I'm not being prepared to enter any speculation. But honestly, I don't think that Bayern would have made that move if they hadn't already got the next man lined up. And I think still the indications are that Julian Nagelsmann is their preferred choice. Thomas Tuchel is definitely the more experienced coach, a little bit further ahead in his development, but then burnt his bridges so badly at Dortmund on a personal level that I think Bayern would be very reluctant to go for him. I still think Nagelsmann is a much more likely decision to be made.
Yeah, the thought, Raf, was perhaps he was going to come in at the end of the season, but to put him in now, any reservations? A 30-year-old in charge of Bayern Munich?
Yeah, of course there are reservations, and you know he's lost again tonight in the Europa League, so not exactly a ringing endorsement of his international career. But I think they've looked at what he's done, and you know they tried to sign him as the under-17 coach 3 years ago, so they've been following for a long time. And I think there is a sense of almost fear, perhaps, that if they miss out on him, they could make the same mistake they made with Jurgen Klopp when they opted for Jurgen Klinsmann instead of Klopp, because Klopp was only a second division coach at the time. They didn't think he had a big enough name, big enough stature. But of course, they made a mistake in getting Klinsmann. And I think they're prepared to look beyond the lack of experience, beyond the lack of his playing career, because he didn't have one, and see that he's managed to take a Hoffenheim team that really shouldn't be anywhere near the top of the Bundesliga now in his second season to the very top. And I think they feel that he is that special talent that they can't miss out on.
A special one, maybe, pedigree, promise, but would you be concerned, Stevie?
I would be concerned, you know, to listen to Hunis talking about the importance of the experienced players at the club. To bring a kid in with those experienced guys who pretty much, by the sounds of it, have got rid of Carlo Ancelotti, I think that's a huge gamble.
You say Robin and Ribery being older than him might be a problem.
Listen, it's always a problem when you have a younger manager coming in and there are older players. But when you've got such strong characters, and as I said, Hunis is actually saying that these strong characters had something to do with Ancelotti getting the sack. This kid could be getting thrown to the wolves.
Yeah, characters and egos clearly are played in Bayern Munich's dressing room, which is a huge concern and not easy to address. Yes, there are managers who haven't had playing careers of note who've gone on to do wonderful things. Nobody needs me to point out Alex Ferguson, Jose Mourinho, but they've earned their stripes at smaller European clubs before making that big jump. Now, whether the time spent at Hoffenheim qualifies, I'm not so sure. Not with this cast of characters.
Raf, what are the realistic expectations moving forward for the rest of this season for Bayern? They reached 3 finals in 4 years, didn't they, under Van Gaal and Heinkes? They haven't reached a final since 2013. Is the Champions League realistic for Bayern this year?
Not on the evidence of Wednesday night, of course. They've really made a step back. I think the expectation was that Ancelotti would keep the level more or less that they had under Guardiola, but in fact they've regressed, and they've regressed quite badly this season, certainly, where they've gone down another level in terms of their overall performances. So I don't think they have much expectations apart from getting out in the group stage and not being humiliated in the last 16 or in the quarters. In the Bundesliga, of course, the situation is still retrievable. They can still win the league. But I think the bigger issue is almost that they were so afraid that things would fall completely apart this season that they weren't even prepared to sort of muddle through for another few months and then have a clean break. I think fear of a total breakdown of relationship between the team and Ancelotti and the board as well made them pull the trigger now.